you know, like sort of pulled in all these different directions. But I'm very grateful tonight that Christine Lietman is going to be handling the prayers. And by the way, oh, there it goes. Here we go. All right. I'm grateful tonight that, uh-oh, I have to, wait. Oh, wait, I've got to, oh, it's okay. I thought it was going to reverberate here, but it's not. All right.
Rabbi, this is Marilyn. Jim's having a little trouble upstairs. I'm not sure why, but he lost the internet. So if he doesn't get it back right now, he's going to come down.
By our lives, give light to all who behold us.
Wait a minute.
So he needs a minute.
All right. So we'll take a minute. Just talk amongst yourselves.
A little technical, of course. That's never happened before.
I just sent you a message.
Okay. So somebody sent me a message?
Yeah, I did. Rosalind.
Okay, I'm sort of, I have audio now. Yay, Lori. Okay, can't see enough of your dog. Where's my dog? Oh, Ollie. I want to see you. Wait a minute.
Dog.
Hey, Ollie.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Here, see him?
Ollie, no.
Look at that.
He's not interested.
She can't see the whole face. The cable's in the way.
Hey, cutie. So, Marilyn, you seem to have no problem with the internet, so maybe should he move?
I'm downstairs. He's upstairs. He's never.
Maybe he should come down and do it with you.
That's what I suggested. So he was giving it one last. Oh, I hear him coming. Lucky we have another spot.
Unfortunately,
It worked when we tested it last time.
yeah.
Is it
Oh, we didn't
connecting
have
with
as many. We have
Wi-Fi?
71 devices plugged in.
Wow.
See, there's 71 people on this tonight.
And 71 people actually. Oh, Emily Pasquarelli, hello.
Hi, Emily.
He's on his way down.
Okay.
Of course, you know, Murphy's Law.
Yeah, the quality of microphone's not going to be as good. So.
No, I think he's bringing his microphone. Oh, wait a minute. Oh.
What? He can't do it?
No, he's coming. Do you want me to go get it?
Go get you have to unplug the microphone and bring the prayer book.
This is what happens when you have to deal with technology, you know?
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to record some of my stuff.
Put my mic on. Where is it?
All right.
Connecting with Wi-Fi could be the
Well,
problem.
I'm going to sit here.
Shouldn't use Wi-Fi.
If we turn off videos, it might
No.
be
If we turn off all our videos, what's the point of all of us being
No,
on
it's
here?
not that. It's
No, not yours, ours.
Oh, you're,
Rick.
oh,
Rick
you mean Jim?
You know,
Well, that's not going to help Jim.
Rick Landis.
Yeah.
Jim, sorry.
I see you.
That's
Jim.
okay. I don't know if it's just, this has happened before when we were talking with Morris and Bob, and I don't know if it's something about the Zoom app.
You know what? It's Wi-Fi is one of the
Oh,
problems.
there's Rosalie.
Well, here comes Marilyn. I'm going to see whether this microphone's going to easily.
Oh my goodness, did you see Rosalie?
Am I here?
The more
Rosalie, are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
the more people have videos on.
No, I don't want to turn off the videos.
Okay, well, but that's
I
causing.
do not want to turn off the videos. The whole point of being here on Zoom is so we can see each other.
Did you
Right.
see Rosalie?
But the bandwidth doesn't support it, unfortunately.
Okay, it's on mute. All right, can you hear
Are
me?
you ready? Yeah.
Yes. You're able to hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. 'cause
Okay, take two. Christine, would you mute everybody, please?
Only carries so much of the time, Jim.
Where are we at?
What I look like.
We're just starting. I'm
Okay.
going to welcome people and then you're going to sing. But wait a minute, okay. Shabbat Shalom. It's good to see so many people here tonight on Memorial Day weekend. Obviously, no one was able to escape somewhere else, so you chose to come here and spend it with us, which is wonderful. We're going to begin with Mizmor Shir, and Christine Lietman is going to share her screen with us, and we'll see the words. And you have to make sure Jim is unmuted.
Are we ready to go? Yep. Mishmoshir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai, u'sameh l'shimcha elyon. Mishmoshir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai, u'sameh l'shimcha elyon, u'sameh l'shimcha elyon. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות עלי אדם עלינה בן היגיון בכינור מזמור שיר ליום השבת טוב להודות לאדוני, ושמח לשמחה עליון, ושמח לשמחה עליון. תשמחני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך, מן גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקומה שעותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ושמח לשמחה עליון, ושמח לשמחה עליון, ושמח לשמחה עליון. עליון.
You're on the Reva. Stay muted.
Okay,
Everybody's unmuted. You need to mute everybody.
no, people need to be muted. Otherwise we get a lot of feedback. Christine, can you mute people? And okay, I'm going to light the Shabbat candles and then Jim will sing the blessing.
For real.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And Jim, will you lead us in the Kiddush? And Christine, if you could share the blessing with everybody.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'rata banu. Shabbat kodsho b'yahava u'vratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reshit kihu yom tehila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim kibanu b'charta v'yotanu kiddashta mikol ha'amim Shabbat kodecha yahava uvratzon tinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
L'chaim. Tonight, we are celebrating and thanking the many volunteers without whom our temple would not be able to function. And I hope I don't forget anybody this evening. So if I do, please remind me, but I'll be thanking different people at different moments. We're going to begin by appreciating our temple choir, as well as all the wonderful musicians and singers who have played for our services. They include Barbara Sorotnik, Jim Orens, Eileen Stein, Rena Maduro, Jordan Lund, Elliot Levine, and Amy Litt. But we would like to give an extra special thanks with a leaf. Now, right now, this is the only leaf I have, but we are going to get a nice gold leaf to thank our Rockin' Shabbat band, which provides us with such wonderfully spirited music on various Shabbats. Cantor Bob, Jory Yarmoff, Morris Maduro, Eric Sabar, and Adam Perlstein. We have ordered the leaf. It will be made in the next week or so, and then we will hang it up on our tree. And we're so grateful to you, for all of you, for all the beautiful music that you've provided us. Let us sing in gratitude.
La
You're muted, Rabbi.
Thank you. This week's Torah portion is Bamidbar, in the desert. It begins with a counting of the census, which is important for a people, the Israelites, who are about to conquer the land of Canaan. They need to know how many young men are available to serve in the army. But rather than just counting the people, the text goes into great detail on how to count the men. Moses is told, take a census of the whole Israelite company of fighters by the clans of their ancestral houses, listing the names, every male head by head. You and Aaron shall record them by their groups from the age of 20 years up, all those in Israel who are able to bear arms. Associated with you shall be a man from each tribe, each one the head of his ancestral house. These are the names of the men who shall assist you. And then the text goes on to tell who is in charge and how many people they counted. So why do we need so much detail? Nachmanides, the 13th century Spanish commentator, notes that God wants Moses to number the people in a way that would honor each of them as individuals. The Midrash advises us not to ask, how many people are you in your family? Rather, it suggests we count each person as he or she steps forward to receive honor and be recognized as a unique soul. In the same way that each and every Israelite man was counted as an individual and not just as a number, we want to recognize each and every one of you who have served us in a volunteer capacity. Please raise your hand if you have served on a committee, social action, fundraising, open arms, buildings and grounds, finance, youth group, religious education, religious practices, legacy, the CDC. Thank you all for all your hard work. We continue with the Hatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadal Shemei Rabbah V'yamad yivrach Yirutei v'yamitlich malchutei v'chayechon u'vyomechon v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael Bagala bagala u'bizman garil v'emeru amen. Yehesh me Rabba mevarach, v'allah mulal me'al maya, yitbarach, yitbarach v'yishabach, yitbarach v'yirama v'yitnaseh, v'yidadah, v'yidaleh, v'yidalal, shemei l'chudeshah, richu, le'ela min kol rechata v'shirata, Tush b'chata v'nechemata Amin Rabbi Alma Imeru Amen.
We continue with the Baruch Hu. Please feel free to rise if you'd like to, or to stay seated, because actually what we'll see is your stomach if you rise.
Da
This is a piece called Census, Bamidbar, by Rabbi Rachel Rosenblatt. Magnified and sanctified be the names in the census. These printouts piled on the kitchen island like petals from some vast magnolia scented with toner. These passenger manifests showing which ancestor came when and lived with whom and where. Family and borders, all Hebrew, all literate together. Blurred and scanned, puzzled and deciphered. Praise the crabbed handwriting given us now. All these names, each a part of the great name, just as stars are part of the galaxy, burning on and on. And may we all remember their descendants, that Poland wasn't black and white, but real, like here. Endless database of names, hold our memories for us. Inscribe us on an everlasting hard drive as we say, Amen. We continue with Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha Ahavta, Amcha Ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpati, Otanu limadita, Otanu limadita, Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, V'shofteinu, U'kumeinu, Nafsiya v'hukecha, V'tizmach v'tivrei Toratecha. U'mitzvotecha li'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, ve'orech yameinu, u'vahem negei yomam, yomam v'layla, ve'avatcha al-chafir, mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael, ohev amo Yisrael.
Please join us in the Shema. And Carolee, if you would join us in the Ve'ahavta, you're unmuted.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lavavcha u'chol nafshecha u'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Anochi mitzavcha hayom alavavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uvshochbecha uvkumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha laman tiskaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai Vitem kadoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
Thank you so much, Carolee.
My pleasure.
So the census turns out to give us 603,550 Israelites. Now, the instruction to take a census is of the whole community, and that is not what happens here. The text makes it clear that the census includes only men of at least 20 years of age who are deemed capable of bearing arms. But asked Dr. Carl Balin, how do we account for the numbers that the census conceals? The roughly 600,000 women, 2 million children, 100,000 elderly men, and 90,000 men with physical challenges who live alongside the 603,550 Israelites. In its original context, the census was a mere pragmatic tool designated to calculate the potential military might of the community. But numbers speak for themselves. When you consider 603,550 men are counted in a book of 36 chapters that acknowledge fewer than 10 women, you begin to understand that who does the recording and who is recorded are not incidental matters. Factor into the equation the cumulative effect of hearing these numbers repeated year in and year out to ever new generations of Jews during the yearly cycle of reading Torah. The impact of hearing stories that feature male protagonists almost exclusively is exponential, incalculable, epic. What would happen, Dr. Balin asks, were we to change the narrative by broadly altering cultural expectations around gender and move women to the center of the story? Something to ponder indeed. Luckily, here at Temple Bethel, women are not second-class citizens. We have a woman rabbi and a woman president. And we have a very important sisterhood that provides us with sustenance on a yearly basis. Please raise your hand if you are one of the many members of our sisterhood. Women also have been the organizers of our wonderful Jewish Film Festival. Please raise your hand if you've been part of that. We also have a number of extraordinary women who have contributed so much to our congregation. Our office ladies, Elise, Diane, and Susan, who do way more than what they're paid for. Our Oneg maven, Eileen Stein, who also teaches when I twist her arm. And of course, our Melamedet, Carolee Jaspin, who trains all our B'nai Mitzvah, young and old, as well as our high holiday chanters. All of you, please wave to us. No one is like you. Mi chamocha. Jim, can you be louder? Jim, if there's any way to make your microphone any louder, that would be great.
Okay, it's up a little louder there, I hope. Is that louder?
It was louder before. I don't know what happened.
Wait, well, let me see.
I'll let you fiddle with it while I talk.
I don't know how it is now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's not as loud as it could be. So we'll do what we can.
What about this?
It's a little better. Yeah, that's better.
Better? Okay. It's obviously the good microphone is not doing what it's supposed to. So
of course not.
It sounds better.
This is the world we live in now. Technology is ruling us. So the Haftorah for Parshat Bamidbar is from the book of Hosea. It's a prophecy of redemption. In the opening verses, God promises that the people of Israel will one day be as multitudinous as the sands of the sea. They will be recognized as being children of the living God, and Judah and Israel will assemble together, unified under one leader. The wilderness, which is the setting of our Torah portion, is often recalled in later writings, such as Hosea, as an idyllic place where the Israelites are in all their innocence, dependent on God's sustenance. Let us appreciate our board of directors, whose job it is to sustain us. This year, they have had the double duty, not only of running the synagogue, but of also trying to manage our response to the coronavirus pandemic. So Amy Pearlstein, our president, and all our boards of directors, please wave to us as we acknowledge your wonderful contribution. We continue with Vishamru.
Is the audio any better now, Rabbi?
No, now it's fainter.
Okay. How is it now? Is it okay now?
No, it was okay before when you did something.
Oh, great. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, everybody.
It's okay. This is life now. We're at the mercy of our machines.
Okay, how's that now?
It's a little better.
Okay. Okay, I'm back to, I was trying to play with the sound and obviously it didn't work. All right, the Shamru.
Jim is coming through loud and clear where I am.
Now it is. Yeah.
Rabbi, turn up your speakers.
No, someone else mentioned it. It's not just me, so.
It's okay, that's okay. I'm just kidding, you know. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורות הברית העולם בני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם בני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם Hashvi, Shabbat Vayi Nafal, Bayom Hashvi, Bayom Hashvi, Shabbat Vayi Nafal.
We continue with the Amidah. Jim, you're muted in case you're.
Now I'm guilty. Adonai Sifatati Tahu Pi God, let us Tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chazadim Tovim v'Konei HaKol, Zokeh Hasei Avot ve'imaot, u'mevi gula livnei v'nehem leman shemo v'yahava, melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham v'yezak Sarah, atah gibor li'olam Adonai, michayei eti hakol atah rav lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Michael Chaim Bechesed, Michaye Hakol Berachamim. I'm sorry, Berachamim Rabbi. Tomech Nofim Virope Kolim, Umatir Rasurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishedei Apar. Michamocha ba'al gevura, umidom melach, melech memid, umechaye, umatmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah, l'chachayot hakol, baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol, atah kadosh, v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim b'chol yom yahalalucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
And let's just take a moment to pray silently as with the words of our own hearts before we conclude the Amidah. Let's continue with Shalom Rav. May there be a great peace. The next slide. Yeah.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lekoch hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lekoch hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל. בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
We are in the midst of counting the Omer, which are the days from Passover leading up to Shavuot, which is next week. And each day that we count the Omer, we think of how we are preparing ourselves to be worthy of receiving the Torah. So I'm going to put up the Omer up here. Jim is going to chant it, and then I'll just read it.
Hineni mukhanun tuman, hineni mukhanun tuman, hineni mukhanun tuman, lekayem mitzvah aseh shel tefilat haomer. Hineni mukhanun tuman, hineni mukhanun tuman, hineni mukhanun tuman, lekayem mitzvah aseh shel tefilat haomer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzivav, v'tzivanu al tefilat haomer.
Hayom arba'a ve'arba'im yom shehem shisha shavuot u'shnei yamim la'omer. Today is the 44th day of the Omer, and it is week 6 of the weeks and 2 days for the Omer. Could you possibly spotlight me, Christine? I don't know if I can spotlight myself. Oh, I can spotlight myself. Okay, never mind. So we're going to talk about the Misha Berach in a moment. Before we get to it, though, we've had the great fortune of having a doctor in our congregation, Dr. Martin Schlesselberg, who put a lot of time into a video that is available if anybody wants to see it. He gave a session a few weeks ago on the coronavirus. And it was a very clear, very accessible session. So if anybody wants to know anything about the coronavirus, go to our YouTube channel and watch it. And we're very appreciative of the time that Dr. Schlesselberg gave us to do that. And also he's been a consultant for us about how we proceed in this very difficult time. Also, we have a caring committee, which Randy Lester Wilson has been chairing. He's also served as our rabbinic intern this year as he goes through the Academy for Jewish Religion School for Rabbinic Studies. And we're very appreciative of the help that the caring committee has given in terms of visiting people and calling them. And especially now during this very difficult time, they have gone out and bought groceries for people who can't go out themselves. So, you know, at the end of all of this, when we get to a place in the service where we can show everybody, we'll have everybody whom I've named wave, and we'll be able to recognize you individually. So we have some people who are ill in our congregation, and then there are people who are in our hearts, who are members of our family or members who are friends of ours. And we think of them tonight: Jonathan Davidson, Brenda Oppenheim, Ben Henderson, Marie Alkiri, Barbara Brandt, Bob Fry, Nancy Fry, Isaac Lipkovitz, Rivka Lipkovitz, Rabbi Steve Robbins, Gloria Mangus, Steve Mangus, Pamela Mangus, Steve Lux, Becca Troxler DeHand, Evie Troxler DeHand, Kathy Kreider, and Jan Judman. If anybody would like to add a name, you can either unmute yourself or put it in the chat and I'll read it out loud. Robert Helmbrecht, Lonnie Reams,
Julie Lapidus.
Robert
Julianne
Doctor.
Lapidus.
Julie Lapidus, Robert Doctor,
Ruth and
Yvette Cooper, Patty Podner, June Carpenter, Casey McCarthy, Rabbi Bennett Herman, Ruth Landis and Sandy Landis. Of course, all those who are struck by the coronavirus, we're thinking of them as well. Tom Johnson. David Alter. Okay, please join us in the Misha Berach, the prayer for healing.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Yivarech, Yirate, et HaCholim. Misha Berach Avoteinu Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Yivarech, Yirate, et HaCholim. Elna Refana La, Elna Refana La. Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Yivarech, Yirate, et HaCholim.
And there are a couple other names that came in the chat: Carla Osgood, Eliud Martinez, Casey Olson. As I mentioned, our Torah portion this week is the beginning of the book of Bamidbar in the wilderness or the desert. The Israelites have left Egypt, have received the Torah, and are now making their way to the promised land. One of the characteristics of the wilderness is that there are few signposts to guide our way. We've left the known for the great unknown. We do not know what lies ahead, nor what dangers and challenges we might encounter along the way. If that sounds familiar, that's a little bit what it's like right now to be living with COVID-19. How safe is it to go outside? Will we become ill? Will our loved ones? When will we get back to normal? What will happen to our economy? How long will this continue? It's a scary time, though one not without opportunities. In the desert, there are opportunities for discovery and creativity, for renewal. After all, it is in the wilderness that we receive God's revelation. Would we have been open to it had we been living our previous lives? So too, at this difficult time of COVID, we've discovered some new silver linings in this cloud. More people have been able to attend Shabbat services thanks to this technology of Zoom. And the same is true for our Passover Seders and even our memorial services, despite the sadness of not being there in person for one another. So isn't it interesting and incredibly coincidental that as we embark on this wilderness journey to the Torah, our counting of the Omer is coming to an end because next week at this time, we will be celebrating the holiday of Shavuot, the very same one that commemorates our receiving of the Torah, the very same one where we're going to celebrate our 6 confirmands as well. But there's more. Shavuot is an agricultural festival, one that celebrates and offers gratitude for our abundant harvest. The imagery is one that contrasts dramatically with that of a desert. In the Bible, we are told to make a pilgrimage to the temple on Shavuot in order to offer the first fruits of our harvest. Listen to how the Talmud describes this very joyous affair. Early in the morning, the officer would say, "Let us arise and go up to Zion into the house of Adonai our God." Those who lived near Jerusalem would bring fresh figs and grapes, while those who lived far away would bring dried figs and raisins. An ox would go in front of them, his horns bedecked with gold and with an olive crown on its head. The flute would play before them, and they would draw close to Jerusalem. When they arrived in Jerusalem, they would send messengers in advance, and they would adorn their offerings. The governors and chiefs and treasurers of the temple would go out to greet them, and according to the rank of the entrance, they would go forth. All the skilled artisans of Jerusalem would stand up before them and greet them, saying, "Our brothers, men of such and such a place, we welcome you in peace." The flute would play before them until they reached the Temple Mount. And when they reached the Temple Mount, even King Agrippus would take the basket and place it on his shoulder and walk as far as the temple court. When he got to the temple court, the Levites would sing the song, "I will extol you, O Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, for you have raised me up, and you have not let my enemies rejoice over me." What an image of abundance and joy. What a contrast to the starkness of the desert, to the fears and anxiety caused by being in the wilderness. As we make our way to Shavuot next week, let us retain the beautiful scene of the Israelites making their way to the temple with their first fruits. And let us think of this picture as we continue through the less than certain days that lie ahead. So I'd like to ask, oh yes, thank you. That was very correct, Christine. Jim has a song to match what I was talking about.
Oh, the word, there we go. ימין ושמאל, רק חול וחול, יציב מדבר ללא בשאול, אורך עוברת וממנעה, כי דמות חלום שם מופלא, וציר עולה יורד כסוף, מעלים פוסעים בנוף עצוב, דינדן דינדן בשיר הנור, רק קל לצאת, רק קל לציון, ימין ושמאל, רק חול וחול, יציב מדבר ללא מכשול, אורך עוברה וממנעה, כי דמות חלום שם מופלא, וציר עולה יורד כסוף, מעלים פוסעים lo fatsu. Din dan din dan. Beshir hador. Rakalaset. Rakalisio. Din dan din dan. Din dan din dan. Din dan din dan. Din dan din dan.
I'd like to mention a few other people. In the morning during religious school, Dean Young and Eric Sabar provide us with music every week. And speaking of technology, Ryan Lester Wilson has been our technical expert on computers. So we appreciate all of that as well. I'd like to suggest that everyone go into gallery mode. So go to the upper right-hand part of your screen and click gallery view. You won't be able to see everybody because we have 76 devices, but please don't spotlight me. I want everyone to see everybody as much as possible. So I'd like people that I mentioned, which is almost everybody here, to raise their hand so we can acknowledge your wonderful contributions to our temple. Great. All right, now, did I forget anybody? Please tell me now or forever hold your peace. You can put it in the chat privately to me if you'd like, or you can yell it out, whatever you'd like to do. Because if I did forget anybody, it was not on purpose. I tried to remember everything that we do at the temple, but there's so much.
Your husband, Jordan Lund.
I mentioned him, but thank you.
Sorry.
He may not have heard it, but I did mention him. It's in my script.
Wanted to make
Thank you for acknowledging him.
I heard, she said before, thanks.
right. Wanted to make sure, Jordan.
Oh, and my dog, who contributes to every service. Jordan, can you do something with him, please? I have a colleague. No, I have a colleague who, at the beginning of all of this, the poor thing, she sat down and, she was all dressed up to do her sermon, online.
Rest well. Nice talking to you. I'm gonna finally eat.
Who's talking?
Carl.
Oh.
Okay, so
Sorry.
if you wouldn't mind muting yourself. Sorry, could you mute everybody again, please?
I did.
Rabbi,
Yes. Wait, okay, let me look at the chat. Oh, Missy, of course. Well, we have a whole religious school volunteer appreciation Shabbat, which is coming up in a couple weeks, the beginning of June. And so we will definitely. I mentioned the choir. I didn't specifically mention Sandy Tarmo, but okay, Sandy Tarmo, who is like our second in command for the choir. I mentioned Eileen. There's a whole bunch of people that also, yes, there are a bunch of people who go to the Hulen Center who feed people who are homeless, and that's all organized by Sandy Nelson, and there are a whole bunch of people who work with her, so thank you for that. Okay. I'm glad you're having dinner, Carl. I think I mentioned social action as a committee, but if I forgot that, definitely. Anybody else? So anyway, I was telling the story before my dog so nicely interrupted me, where she was sitting at her desk, all dressed up, all ready to go, and started doing her sermon, and her 4-year-old came in the room and started screaming and crying, and she was trying to make like it wasn't happening. And eventually she couldn't do that anymore. And so she then had to go and, do something about the child, and she muted herself. And it turns out that her husband had decided that he would go take a walk in the middle of her service and leaving her behind with her 2 little children. So I think they might've had a little bit of a conversation that evening. Anyhow, so that's part of the joy of doing things at home and technology. Let's see. I mentioned the film festival. Okay, I didn't specifically mention Gail Webb, but I did. I mentioned Cantor Bob. He was one of the people who's on the leaf that we're giving him. Remember this green leaf? Cantor Bob is part of that. Carl is feeding his mother. That's really nice, Carl. Okay. The Cantor Search Committee. Okay. Thank you, Jory Yarmoff, for heading that, though it was truncated. Okay, so I'm sure, is Jim part of the music group? I thanked Jim. Specifically, I thanked Jim and Jordan and Amy Litt and Elliot Levine and all those people, but then the people who are part of the Rockin' Shabbat band got a leaf. Jim is not part of the Rockin' Shabbat band. He's part of the Yismahu Quartet. They'll get a leaf next time. Okay. Yes, we are going to do a whole thing for the religious schools. So we will thank the Sabars and the McDermotts and all of those people. The Senior Havurah. Okay, Senior Havurah. Thank you for being there and having the most successful Havurah of any Havurah in the congregation. Any more? Okay. It's very hard to remember everything, but I'm so glad everyone's on top of it. Also, because sometimes you don't hear what I said, and so then you think, oh, she forgot something really important. The first time I tried to do one of these was my first high holiday service in Oakland, where I had to, at the end of the service, I turned around and thanked all the board members, and never do that just off the cuff. Because then, of course, you forget someone's name all of a sudden. Someone you've known for 10 years, you can't remember their name. Anyway, as Bob always says, it's not a good idea to try to thank people because you always forget someone, right? Yep. Okay, so please forgive me if I did forget. And again, it was not on purpose. And thank you, Christine Lietman, for tonight. Really appreciate your helping out. And we have a whole, you're not finished. We have a whole group of people that are helping with this because it's a lot to do the slides and the everything. So now the other thing I'd like to do is it's Memorial Day weekend, and I'm sure we have some people here who have served in the armed forces. So if you did serve in the armed forces, please unmute yourself and tell us your name.
Lynn Lipscomb.
I'm going to say for Eliud Martinez, he was in the Marines and got special honors.
Bob Pearlstein, I was in the Air Force and served in Vietnam in 65, 66.
Bill Oppenheim.
You can tell us what branch you served in if you'd like.
Do wives count? Robbie was in the air.
Sure, wives count because you're their better half. Go ahead.
Oh, yes,
Robbie
and I was
Air Force here. Oh, go ahead.
And I didn't say, I was in the Navy when I was in.
And I will speak for Marty Tarma and say that he was in the Army in Vietnam, well, and San Francisco too.
And I was in the Air Force for 20 years.
Bill, great. Anyone else? Well, we thank you for your service. Okay, you know what? Let me just ask if anybody would like to share anything right now. We have 76. Uh-oh, I have some more chats here. I must. Oh, Mark Fenton served in the Air Force. Wonderful. Oh, the Sukkah people, of course. I'm so sorry. That's right. We have a group of people who put out the Sukkah right after Yom Kippur and who take it down. So we really appreciate your work. The Capital Improvement Trust. Wow. That's one I never would have remembered. Thank you, Irv. Yes, we have people who are making sure that we make money while we sleep. Okay, I'm sure there's more. I did mention the Legacy Fund, but I forgot the Capital Improvement. And I think I mentioned the fundraising committee. If I didn't, thank you for fundraising and all the different, Judy Lear does the calendar every year, which we really appreciate. This is good. It's a group effort to think of everybody and everything. Okay, I'm looking around. I did look at the list before thinking, oh, what have I forgotten? We also have people who were on the board and not on anymore, but we've thanked them in the past, but thank you again. Does anybody want to share anything tonight? Anything on your mind? Any happy occasion you'd like to share? This is so exciting. We have 76 devices. In some cases, there are 2 people.
I'd like to give a shout out to the seniors of 2020 who will be graduating this week and next week, who've worked so hard and unfortunately are not going to be able to enjoy what so many of us have in the past.
I have a list of people that I'm going to.
Who will be graduating.
Yes, we feel really badly, not only for the high school kids and the college kids who are graduating this year, but my niece graduated last spring and trying to find a job right now as a newly minted college graduate is really, really hard. And also a friend of mine's daughter just defended her dissertation at Harvard and in English. And her dissertation committee loved her dissertation. And when she went and talked to them about jobs, they said, well, if you could do anything else for the next 2 years, do that. So that is really sad. So anybody else want to share something? David was in the Marines. Oh, Sandy Nelson's husband, David Nelson, was in the Marines. Jordan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I would like to show appreciation for Rabbi Suzanne Singer, who works harder on these services than you even know. I know you know, but all the rest of you have no clue. She's working about 14, 15 hours a day right now.
Okay.
So
thank you. I'm going to mute you.
Okay, thanks. I'll mute myself.
Thank you very much. It's nice to have a fan club attending the service. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else want to share anything? Is everybody coping okay?
Okay,
Yeah,
it's Eric. Eric here, Eric Lesser.
Yeah, Eric. Yeah.
I was in Temecula today, just at the property where my mom used to live. Across the street, it's open space, natural area. I was doing some weeding, but I got into my first traffic jam in about 2 months. It was so exciting.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, I mean, the 215 backed up, Moreno Valley into the 91. So that was rather shocking. Like, oh,
yeah.
I forgot what traffic jams are like. Yeah, okay.
Really? Okay. Well, thank you for reminding us of the world we used to know.
And thank you, Rabbi, for all you're doing. You're amazing, and we appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, Christine, the Aleinu.
And as Jolson said, my father thanks you, my mother thanks you, and I thank you. It's all the thank yous. All right. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula li'arteh breshit, shehu noteh oops, I start on the wrong one, wrong page. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula li'arteh breshit, she'lo asanu kegoyei haratzot, ve'lo samanu k'mishpechot hadamah. Shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam. Va'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lipnei melech malchei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shehu notet shamayim v'yosed haaretz Umoshav yikaro b'shamayim mima'al, u'shchinatuzo b'tzavei meromim, Hu Eloheinu enod, emet makenu efetzulato, takatu v'torato, v'yadata hayom v'hashavota elevavecha. Ki Adonai hu Elohim, kashamayim ima'al, v'al haaretz midachad, ein od. Kakatu b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, v'nehemar, v'haya Adonai, v'melech al kol ha'aretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad. Ushemo, echad.
And before we go to the mourner's Kaddish, can we go back to us? No, just back to the group. In other words, stop sharing your screen, please. Thank you. Okay. I want to first of all thank Jim for your music tonight, your beautiful voice, and some really original songs. And you've gotten some other compliments in the chat. And actually, I'm going to share the screen with you because I want to go through the list of people who are Jewish soldiers and various other people in the arms. Oh, I didn't share my screen. Wait a minute. This is the list of fallen heroes. And I'm going to scroll through the names and we can read them to ourselves. These are all people who've given their lives for our country, and we appreciate that. You can go, hey, you got lots of kudos in the chat, Jim. You may want to take a look. So Christine, you can share the screen now, please. Thank you. So we think of people who are no longer with us. May their memories be for a blessing. We're observing Shiva for S. David Freeman, friend of Melissa McKeith, and Frank Andrews, father of Gail Pro. And we're observing Shloshim for Adele Lucas, mother of Lori Lucas. Is anyone else here in Shloshim or the first year of mourning who would like to mention a name? Please either put it in the chat or say it out loud. Dr. Bob Levy, Shloshim.
Adrian Jacobs.
First year, Calic Diaz. Dennis Cronenfeld, Gary Ferris. Bert Rosner, Philip Newhouse. Ruth Foreman. And we're also observing yard sites this Shabbat for Bertha Goldeck, Esther Ashwall, Rose Falk Zone, Nancy Silverman, Fred Marcus, Grace Gordon, Philip Gordon, Diane Nussbaum, Daniel Dion Ramirez, Amy Kurland Dorn, Chuck Shanklin, Betty Frankel, Sarah Wall, Morton Oppenheim, Annette Abrams, Charles Hunt, Donald Kaufman, Martha Weber, Louis Bachman, Betty Kellner, Gary Herman, Samuel A. Schur, Ruth Carone, Stanley Brown, Rabbi Joseph Isaac Atkin, Robert Gordon. Is anyone else? Yeah, we're observing also the first year of mourning for Werner Kopel. We mentioned Adele Lucas at the beginning, and anybody else observing a yard site? Vivian Sherman. Okay, please join me in the Mourner's Kaddish. Now, for the Mourner's Kaddish, if you'd like to unmute yourself, please do so, even though it'll sound cacophonous, but I think it's nice to be able to all do this together, because we also think of those who perished in the Holocaust and have no one to say the Mourner's Kaddish for them. So feel free to unmute yourself. And the dog can participate with us.
Yeah.
It's not my dog this time.
Not mine either.
Yitgadal, Yikadash, Shmei Rabbah. Ra Hekutei, Amlich Malchutei, Chayachon, Yomechon, Chaye Dechol Beit Israel, Agala, Ubizman Karim, Imru, Ain. Yehei Shmei Rabbah, Alam Lamei Almaya, Yitbarach, Dar Vitromam Nase, Dar Vidale, Al
Shemay de Kudasha.
Barich Ela Min Kol Birkata V'Shirata. Amiran Be'alma Imru.
Amen.
Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Amen. Usei Shalom Nimroma. Ya'aseh Shalom. Leinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, as together we say, Amen. We are going to conclude with Hallelujah. Hang on one second.
All right. Just as a note, I learned as I was preparing tonight that the Hallelujah is a Sufi chant. Just a little bit of information. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, Hakamat, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Thank you. And now for the motzi. Bread against the, everybody touch the screen, or touch someone who's touching the screen. Go ahead.
Right. Motzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avot. Amen.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Jim, take a look at the chat so you can see all the nice things that are being said about you. If people want to stick around a little bit to chat, we can do that. Otherwise, Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Shabbat Shalom, and thank you.
We
Shabbat
can
Shalom.
unmute everybody, and you guys can join us if you'd like.
Shalom, everyone. Nice to see all of you.
Nice to see you all.
Be well. Have a good week.
Hi, everybody.
Very well, everyone.
Thank you, Jim, for your wonderful music. Thank you.
Shalom. Great job, Jim.
Bye.
Thank you, Jim.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
Until next time.
Until next week.
Yes, really. Join us next week for our confirmation service. Definitely.
Yay.
All the seniors that are they're confirming. Most of them, yeah.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And yes, please join the confirmation service. Those kids have worked very hard, as the rabbi has worked very hard. And it's going to be beautiful.
We'll be there, Carolee. We'll be there.
Good, good, good. This is a lovely service, Rabbi. And just we appreciate you, Rabbi. We really do.
We do.
Thank you very much.
We do.
Thank you.
And love. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Carolee.
Love you all.
The same to you, dear.
Thank you, Rabbi. Rabbi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm so glad that you came to the service.
I had a little problem signing in, but it made it.
Me too.
Good.
So thank you again.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made it. So.
Well, we had 76 people or 76 machines, which means that more than
that. Yeah.
Why is this? I'm trying to write something and it won't go in. Darn it.
Click
Oh,
it.
because Steve left. Oh, Steve Chick said he's going to take a vacation in his backyard, and I was trying to respond to it. However, he's gone, so I can't send it to him.
Okay.
So, Ron, is it your brother who's ill, or?
Yeah, he's got the.
Signing out. Hi, Ron.
Sorry.
Hi, guys. Hi, guys. Yeah.
Sorry to hear it.
Thank you. Thank you. He's in the hospital, hopefully.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
God bless
Rabbi,
you.
what are your thoughts? May I ask, what are your thoughts if they open up for services they're talking about in a week or so?
Yeah, well, we have a committee that has been discussing it, and there are a bunch of issues. First of all, we have to wait until, the governor says it's okay. Then the issue is people have to be, I assume that the requirements will be that people have to be 6 feet apart, wear masks, and not do any singing. And then there's going to have to be, a lot of sanitizing of things like the bathroom, et cetera. So that's going to be difficult just because, people go to the bathroom. We don't have really big bathrooms. And how do you keep people, all right. And then finally, to me, a service with people sitting 6 feet apart with masks and not singing is not the greatest service. It's not very spiritual. So I think maybe at some point we'll open up for, right before we had to stay at home, we did have a service in the sanctuary where people were 6 feet apart, although they weren't wearing masks. We could possibly do something like that. But again, singing is really dangerous because it really projects your stuff.
Sure.
And then also people who are older than 65, which is a lot of our congregants, it's not so safe for them. Yeah. And for the high holidays, given the fact that, we usually get a couple hundred people, that's going to really be impossible. I'm pretty sure that for the high holidays, we're going to end up doing it this way. Most places, most synagogues are talking about doing it that way. The churches are, the mega churches really want to open up. There are churches that have opened and they've had to close a week later because a whole bunch of people got sick.
Yeah.
So it's very tricky, and you know, we're wrestling with all of that. We meet pretty much every week. Christine's on that committee, and David Crone, and let's see if anybody else who's here is on that committee. No. Anyway, there are about six or eight of us, and
I'd be very careful about the meeting because not everything I read suggests that we're going to get into a second wave situation where we start getting together because the numbers are low without having any idea of how to trace or.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're not
I'm scared of that.
Nobody has actually met the requirements that were stated for opening, you know, but they're opening anyway because people are getting impatient and they think, you know, well, we've done this for 2 months, so that's enough. Well, 2 months, you know what I mean? Like, it's not enough just because you did it for 2 months. Bye, Carl. Yeah, it's a very tricky thing. I mean, again, I think, to me, a service like this, and maybe you disagree with me, is more prayerful than having people sitting way apart from each other with masks on.
Why do you feel that people are not attending this, members of the congregation? Is there reasons why they wouldn't be at this time attending this and would be opposed in the future to continue it like this? Or what are your thoughts on that, maybe?
Well, actually, we are getting more people attending our services this way than we ever had before, believe it or not.
Okay.
I mean, tonight we had 76, which, you know, if you put, you know, there are extra people in certain places. So that's really more, maybe 90 people. There are some people who absolutely do not want to do this. You know, I've talked to a couple of them and they just not interested. I had one person who's not happy about the fact that probably this is how we're going to do high holidays. And then also in talking to my colleagues, they're all saying, well, we can't do a service the way we do, you know, online, the way we do a service in the sanctuary. I mean, we've kind of been doing it that way on Friday nights. I try to make it a little bit shorter. Tonight was a little longer than I've been doing it in the past. But high holidays, I think, is particularly tricky because the people who usually come, I mean, a lot of the people who come have never been to Shabbat services. And so this is like a whole new thing for them. Whereas people who come fairly regularly right now, you know, are getting a little bit used to the whole technology and the way that we're interacting with each other. So I don't know. It's really going to be very difficult to make the decision.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw that too, Christine. And we're also, by the way, we're live streaming this as well. Now there are, you know, just a handful of people who are watching it on live stream, but so there were probably at least 90 people tonight, which, you know, even when we've done a volunteer Shabbat before, haven't had that many people.
No, 30, 40 people.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is definitely not ideal. I mean, you know, you don't want to have your whole life be online. And particularly, you know, in terms of people who, you know, when the memorial services, I've done 3 of them online, and it, you know, people need to get a hug, right? And you can't do it right now.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you've had people from all over the country attending these services that otherwise wouldn't be able to be there.
Yeah.
So there are pros and cons. And once things get back to normal, whatever that means, whenever that is, I think we're going to still be doing more technology than we've done in the past, because that's what people are going to expect. You know, hey, I was able to live stream and I live in Palm Desert. I couldn't come otherwise. They can watch it, you know, and we're going to get a camera to live stream, but it, you know, it won't be. What I like about this is we can see each other.
Is it possible, not enough up on the technology, to have more things like the group singing, to have at least some of the, everybody doing at least some of the prayers together?
I could do that. I mean, the problem with Zoom is that there's a delay.
Yeah.
And that's why I haven't been doing it. I mean, I was, as I said, I was invited to Doug Cohn's service and he unmuted everybody for all the prayers. It sounds like a big mess. And then if someone's singing,
Okay. Well,
but
it's like
I mean,
that at the Mortar's Cottage. It was delayed in the Mortar's Cottage. So we're
right.
doing it was
right. That's the only way you can do it on Zoom, unfortunately. Yeah. So, I mean, we could see if people want to try it, you know, with some other prayers too, but it's going to sound like that. So the person singing who's doing a beautiful job, you're not going to really hear.
Yeah, I don't think that's a wise thing with the
Yeah, I
sound
don't
delay.
particularly like it.
There's
Oh, Jim.
5 or 6 different sound
Yeah.
delays and they're all meshed together. So it's
Right.
better to have a pure voice. And Jim tonight was wonderful. Unfortunately, we couldn't hear him sometimes. He was.
I know.
swamped.
You know what happened? I think he had a special microphone that somehow wasn't working downstairs.
Ah,
And so he was just,
yeah.
I think, using the mic from the computer, which is not that great, but
Yeah,
you
I
know,
would say one thing about the cacophonous prayers is that that's a very orthodox way to do it, isn't
Yeah.
it? Some people are speeding through and some people are slower and some people are having a side conversation. So
I mean, I think like, the Mourner's Kaddish, you're kind of just saying it as opposed to singing it. The singing is another, but I mean, I'm happy to try other ways of doing things, it doesn't have to be this way every week. Now, I don't know, Eric, were you last week? Did you attend the service last week? Because,
No.
Jorian, okay, if you get a chance to look at the recorded version, which is on our YouTube channel, just look at the first song. Jorian Morris did Hine Matov. They recorded it in the studio. They were very far apart from each other, but then they did a lot of editing and they had Morris's voice. They had the harmony. He sang the harmony as well as the melody. So you heard 2 voices. And Jory played a number of different instruments. I mean, it took a lot of time to do that. It's very highly produced, but it sounded great. It was really nice. And, we now have a few songs we can use again at some point. And when they do it again, we'll have more. And we're hoping that maybe for the high holidays, we can do some of that because, otherwise, like the choir, we can't. Luckily, Morris has recorded the choir and we can use that tape and maybe enhance it with different things. We can't really get the choir together. That's like really dangerous to have them singing in in proximity. And if you try to separate them, then how do you record it?
The Jory Morris thing on tape, that can be inserted to any
Yeah.
service?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Then we could do that.
Yeah, we
That was
will
really
actually in this, what's his name? Randy's doing a service in July and we're going to use some of those and we'll probably have more by that point, I hope. And then they're going to do a Rockin' Shabbat in August, which I see. Jorian Morris really like to produce stuff. They have a lot of equipment and they love doing it. But it is very time consuming. I mean, hours and hours and hours of recording and then editing and all that. So it can't be done every week. But I think now Bob is going to try. Bob is doing next week because it's confirmation. And I think he's going to try to do some recording. And Jordan wants to do some like that as well. So
they're
I
going to
wish
be.
I had a cat that would sit in my lap. My cats never sit in my lap, ever.
So they're going to be in the main. They're going to be in the main sanctuary next week.
Oh no, the kids, no, we're doing it all like this. I mean, unfortunately, we can't get the kids together right now. And, they'd have to be 6 feet apart from each other and there's 6 of them. And then there's the clergy. And so how do you do all that and make it look like anything? Plus Bob does not want to be in the sanctuary with other people.
Yeah.
I don't particularly want to myself, but so that's where we are at this point. We'll see, we'll see what happens when the governor decides we can go to phase 3, which he says is weeks away. So we'll see.
Yeah, this is going to be a long process. It's going to be, every few days, a new approach, and it's going to be just, we haven't ever done this before. So it's going to be daily and new things and evolve very slowly.
It's a scary thing to get. I mean, it's a painful, it's worth being really careful. And it's old people, I mean, I'm one of them, but there are younger people too. Don't want to take wild chances. It's kind of unhuman to do what we're doing, but dying like flies is not a good thing either.
Well, as I said, there are churches that have opened up that have had to close because people got exposed. Yeah. It takes one person.
Unfortunately, this is now, it's so silly. Why it's all politicized now? Like,
I know, it's crazy.
Republicans are open and no problem, and the Democrats are more cautious, and it's being daily, it's become an issue, and it's horrible. I mean, medical should not be a political thing.
Absolutely,
Medical,
absolutely. It should.
science
It's
and
terrible that
medical.
it is.
And
It
that's
is.
the worst thing. And I'm so sorry to see that.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy that, all of a sudden wearing a mask means that you're some, liberal, lefty
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You're wimpy or something. I mean, it's just incredible.
I know, it's insane. But,
Oh, boy.
those people are going to get sick. They are, a lot of them will. But it's not just that they're getting sick themselves. They're going to give it to other people. That's what the problem is.
So that's the bad part. That's, you get a bunch of people together, and most of the outbreaks haven't been from casually touching something, but you get a bunch of people together.
Right.
One or two people got it, and you get a kind of medical reverberation, and that's
Right.
why.
And yeah,
Go ahead.
no, I was going to say it's the length of time that you're exposed. So that's the thing about a religious service, is that you're in there for an hour and a half, and the air is recirculating. If you don't have a really good system to absorb it, like Bob is reopening his dental practice, but he's gotten 12 HEPA filters.
Right.
And he's going to get something else that, pulverizes or does something to whatever comes out of your mouth. And he's wearing all sorts of protective equipment because, of course, dentists are the most exposed.
So he's been closed for a few months. Bob's been closed basically with office.
Yeah, most of the dentists, I think.
Most dentists.
Yeah, but they are going to be reopening, but with a lot of precautions. But see, one of the precautions they're going to take is taking people's temperature. And okay, that'll tell you if somebody's symptomatic, but there are a lot of people they're saying like 40% of the people are asymptomatic. So
I know,
you don't know
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that I heard a report last night that in Alabama, they were down to one ICU bed in the whole state.
Yeah, I heard there were no beds.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. They've opened up. Georgia opened up. I mean, all these crazy places, and it's definitely going to result in their hospitals being overwhelmed and all of that. And yeah, it's the crazy world we live in right now. And then Trump today announced that that churches should reopen.
Right.
And he said he's going to override the governors if they don't do it, which he doesn't have the ability to do.
Suddenly federal control is everything for him. It's so incongruous. That's not been the Republican position at all. It's all local stuff. And he wants to dictate everything and take it out on all the states that have Democratic governors. It's unbelievable.
Yep, it sure is.
Yes.
I mean, this is the worst combination, to have him in office and this virus.
Ugh.
And to have not enough of the government willing to resist him. I mean, get political either, but he can get away with that because in the final analysis, there are two other branches that have not yet been willing to say no further. And if we got that, it's our own damn fault.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
Let's pray for November.
Yes.
And also get involved in civic engagement and, writing postcards and doing whatever we can to get people registered and able to vote.
And then, of course, Trump is way against mail-in voting. That's fraudulent. You can't do that. Well, he does it himself. He's mailed in a number of ballots himself. He doesn't go to the polls. He mails it in. But it's fine for him, but not for the whole country.
Because he knows he's voting on the right side.
Yeah. Well, do you think he's taking hydrochloroquine? I doubt it very much.
Well, I hope he is.
You know what? They just did a study where people die from it when they're being treated, for.
Yeah, it's horrible results. And he has to boast it because it's being pushed by the right-wing media. So he has to do it, my goodness.
Well, he also owns stock in a company that makes it.
I wish he'd try his lie treatment personally. That would.
I think he should try. I think we should all send him a bottle of bleach. Bottoms up, buddy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
Okay. Well, nice to see all of you. Yeah.
I'm going to say good night. Thank you, Rabbi.
Good night. Good night. Nice to see you.
Bye, thank you.
Have a good week.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Hang on a minute, Suzanne, and I'll give you feedback
okay.
about what went wrong.
No, you did a great job. You did a great job. The only thing I would say is that I love your cat's face. That is great. I love that black. The only thing I would say is, you know, you put the slides in a window and it made them much smaller. And I'm wondering, I have a huge screen, so I don't know whether it was hard for people to read it, but some of it looked very, very small.
Right. Because we were watching it on the phone and it filled the whole screen.
Oh, it did? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Do it full
How did
screen.
it look, Lila and Eric? Were the letters big enough on the prayers?
Oh, yes, they were fine.
Really? Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have it in my full screen because I had other stuff I needed to look at.
Yeah,
so
no,
maybe
it was
that's-
fine. And
Okay.
tonight is my debut on my new laptop with the camera and the mic. I've graduated from the iPhone and I have the new laptop. So
Okay, well, if it looked fine for you guys, that's great. For me, it looked very small, but that's because I didn't have the whole screen.
yeah, no,
full.
it was fine. It was
So
fine.
one thing that, so when I share the screen, I don't know if this will happen with other people, but when I share the screen, my whole view of the program just turns into boxes. And so, I don't see what it looks like. And so that's why
That's so
David put his streaming on. So we
Well, you
can
know
see-
what, Christine, when I put up the recording, you'll be able to see. I'll be able
The
to see
other
it too
thing-
because
the other thing that happens is it seems like when I can't mute or unmute a co-host. So
oh, really?
Yeah. So that's
Okay.
why I was like trying to click, and so it seems like I can't override what you choose.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All right, that's good to know. But no, you did a great job.
Yeah,
You did a
and
great
then,
job. You followed along and everything, and that was great. And doing this spotlighting, which I didn't know about until a few days ago, I think also helps because otherwise all you see are these little boxes, and I think that's not the most restful image to look at. You did great. You change it when you needed to, and
Yeah, I
Good
did
job,
change
Christine.
it on time, and
Sometimes
what?
there was a
Yeah,
delay.
sometimes there was a bit of a delay. So
You know what? When I've done it, it happens too sometimes because you're
not
for a
perfect.
second you're thinking about something else, and next thing you know, oh my God, we're on the next part of this.
No, but the slide loading, I think there's a bit of a delay.
Oh,
If I turned it
well, it's a Zoom
on-
technology. Yeah. No, you did great. I was really impressed.
For anyone else who's going to be the producer or whatever we're called over here.
Well, I know David Crone's going to do it. Jason's done it, and Amy's done it. And I think I wrote down the names of the people who are willing to do it. So yeah, but no, you did great. And it's really helpful to have someone doing that because otherwise I'm going back and forth between so many different things because I had my Kindle open for the the Omer, and I had my Acrobat open so that I could have the names of the soldiers. And then I had my Devar Torah, and I had my, what I wrote out for in between prayers. And so all of those different things, it's a lot to manipulate. Plus every once in a while I would look and go, somebody's unmuted and they're making a lot of noise. Who is it? So
Yeah, you can't tell. You can see who is unmuted.
I can see, yeah. So no, I think you did great. Especially for the first time that you ever did it, you did great.
Yeah.
You were saying something about not seeing the boxes becoming small.
Well,
if you try on view, go on view in your computer.
Oh, I know how to do that. I
use
just,
large-
yeah, I know about that. But I was just worried about the people in the out there if they were able to see it all.
Did you use full screen?
No, I wasn't doing full screen because I had so many other things I had to
Well,
open. So-
I had the things at full screen.
Right, that's what
On
I'm
my
just
side.
for you.
Well, I'll look at the recording and see what it looks like because it's I have so many other things going on here that I did not have a full screen, and so I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't too small for people. You were okay with it, Michelle?
The advantage of being at home was
I'm sorry?
The advantage of being at home is I could run it on my TV set from the
Oh, wow.
laptop and use the TV set as a remote monitor, and it's all looked really beautiful on the TV set.
Oh, good.
Ross,
But you know, it's interesting because I made all these, well, some of the slides were made by the CCAR, and then I made a lot of the slides like for stuff that we didn't have. And when Doug was doing his service, he just uses a Kindle version of the prayer book, which is just plain old white with, and so I try to make it pretty. It's kind of
It's
fun
very
actually
pretty.
using Publisher and, trying to manipulate the images.
Yeah, one thing I would certainly not be interested in a service where you have to wear masks and keep
know,
6 feet apart. Not at all.
Really? No, I mean,
I mean, this is not ideal, but this is much better.
thank you. I agree. That's what I think. And because if you're not wearing a mask, you have to be 6 feet distant. And also you can't sing because then you
Right.
have to be 12 feet. And even just saying prayers and stuff where you're being emphatic, I mean, you're projecting stuff out there,
No, that's not going to happen.
But I know there are going to be some people upset about it, but and we've offered to people, if you have problems with setting up Zoom or whatever, we have people who can help you.
Mm-hmm. I had the same problem, I'm officer of the American Med Society and organize many meetings for the society. And we had to cancel the spring meeting. We'll cancel the fall meeting, probably the annual meeting.
Yeah, I'm organizing.
Cancel that is postpone it by several years, and we might replace the annual meeting by online meeting.
Well, I'm the vice president of PAR, which is the West Coast Rabbis, and I'm in charge of this year's conference, which is in January, and I had it all set up. Now I don't think we can possibly meet, and we talked about doing it online, but there's so many sessions that you can go to. I mean, everyone's offering stuff now.
Yeah,
you can spend the whole day doing webinars.
What you could do is on Zoom. I mean, the problem is, each organizer of a particular session would have to have a link, create a link, a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
And that would work if you don't have too many people in a given session.
Well, the problem is, the people that who are on the board with me felt like, there's so many opportunities right now. I mean, everyone's offering classes online and webinars and, that why offer another batch of them? Because really the reason we get together is to sort of be in fellowship. So we might postpone it for a year. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. I had it all totally worked out because I do everything way ahead of time, And so, and of course, in a year, we're not going to talk about the same issues.
Sure.
But
it will be different.
It's what it is,
One thing for me, I think the worst thing about if we do decide to have any services is the tediousness of getting people in one at a time and out one at a time. I think that would just spoil, in the bathrooms, that would just spoil any joy.
Yeah, and you can't like sit with each other and you can't hug each other and
this feels very intimate, I think. And
I think so, but and I mean, just imagine, like, you have to go to the bathroom, okay, then you have to have someone there monitoring them, making sure they're standing far apart. You have to have someone cleaning after everybody, and wearing gloves. I mean, it just doesn't sound very spiritual.
No, I agree.
Thank you.
So
we'll see. We'll have a meeting in another couple of weeks and see
what
we come up with. But anyway, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see everybody.
Nice to see everybody.
Have a good week.
You too. You too, Rabbi.
Thanks.